God.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
But you're also, too, in your defense, dealing with your father's death. Like that, I think.
Right.
Didn't that control all of your thought process of
Well,
any kind?
yes.
Yeah.
And I felt like I kind of had to be the happy clown of the family. Like, because my mom will never get that out of her head. She will never get that vision, that day, that
Never.
that ever, ever,
It's
ever, ever,
life-changing,
ever,
altering.
ever.
Yes.
And she's never, ever remarried or been out with anybody else. So, I mean, that just says something about how my parents loved each other so much.
Right.
So 5 months into my pregnancy, I found out that Charlie had what's called an omphalocele. His guts were growing on the outside of his body. At that point, no, I didn't drink. I didn't drink during pregnancy with Charlie because it was so delicate.
Yeah.
Then we had Charlie. He had the operation. Everything, we had lots of doctor's appointments, lots of doctor's visits. Again, drinking, but not drinking, pumping and dumping. The term pump and dump. You pump your breast milk and you dump it because it has alcohol in it. You don't want your kid to drink it. So, then I got pregnant with Evan, and in between the time that Charlie was young and I got pregnant with Evan, I started doing cocaine a lot with a new friend that I met, who introduced me to this other friend who sold it. And so I really got into that pretty hardcore, and that's when we were living in this house that was like a mess. This house, it was enchanting and wonderful, but the minute we moved in, everything went wrong. Pipes broke. We got broken into. Both our cars got stolen. You name it, it happened at this house. And this is where my addiction got really, really, really bad. And I remember being at work, and
pushed your limits.
I sounded horrible. I looked horrible. And somebody on the show took me out. I thought they were taking me out to tell me, hey, we're doing contract negotiations. We're going to negotiate with another station because And he sat me down and he goes, I don't think we can work with you anymore. And I just was like, I just started bawling. And he's like, you don't look good. You don't sound good.
Really
You're no fun.
Very thin.
You're not funny. I mean, he was point blank. I mean, he was totally right.
Yeah.
But I made up some story. I said, I don't feel good, and it might be my thyroid, why I'm so skinny. Like, I just made up anything. And he believed me. They gave me another shot. But, okay, so I switched to crystal meth. I went back to crystal meth because that cleared up my nose. And it was cheaper. I could stay up longer. So I would get off work after talking about my husband was the pilot and I have these 2 little kids and da-da-da-da. In this house. And, I'm
I'm a traditional housewife.
Whatever.
Working mom. Yeah.
I would, at 10:30, I'd go across the street, smoke a cigarette, call my drug dealer, go to the liquor store, I turned now to vodka. It wasn't wine anymore. It was vodka because it was quicker and it was got you buzzed better.
And faster.
Yes. So I'd get a Red Bull, a vodka, and I'd smoke a cigarette, and I'd call her, and then I'd go down there, and we would smoke it. I actually smoked crystal meth. You can do that out of a freaking light bulb. How gross is this? I would go into this
light bulb.
Yeah, it's like how bad it was.
That's made of glass.
It's made of glass. You stick. I'm not going to tell you how to make a pipe.
No, don't. No.
But I mean, that's like how ugly.
Where you had to be. Yeah.
And it was like I stepped over. She lived in this studio that had cat poop like on the carpet. She was a hoarder. Her dishes were like piled to the ceiling, and I thought nothing of going into this house and spending time with her because I was high.
She was your people.
Yeah, and it was just so ugly. So I should probably get to what happened. One day, I forgot to mention that I also was on pills as well, Vicodin.
Oh, yeah.
I found a doctor who would prescribe me as many as I want because I had a back injury from a car accident I had when Charlie was young. So I had 90 of them. I would take at least 8 a day because that Vicodin really, your body tolerates it well. If it tolerates it well, you get immune to it real quick. So, you have to pump up the numbers really quick. So one day, my husband was dropping off some things to my car at work, and on the seat I had left my bottle of Vicodin. And so I came out of work, and it was gone. And I was like, oh, crap. So I came home, and I said, I want it back.
Yeah.
Give it to me. You don't know what's going to happen to me.
Crash is hard.
And he's like, look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. You're disgusting right now. Look at what you've become. Because I didn't think he knew. He knew, but he didn't know to the extent.
Right.
I think he was scared of me, and
Well,
I would have been scared too.
But it's unknown,
Right.
And you got so good at.
Oh, I was such a good liar.
Well, not even lying,
it's
just
true.
Living that second life,
So, for 3 days, I was coming down from crystal meth, alcohol, and pills. I called in sick the third morning, and my husband came in, and he was kind of mean to me. He was really mean to me and mad at me, and I don't blame him, looking back. But whatever, I was upset, and I was like, fine. I'm just going to kill myself then. And I went into my closet with no intention of killing myself, but I just wanted his reaction.
Yeah.
Well, he called the police. In the meantime, I'd gotten into the shower, and they came real quick. They came into the bathroom. They dragged me out of the shower naked. They said, okay, put on some clothes. I put on like a t-shirt, some sweats, and they're like, you're coming with us. And they handcuffed me in my cul-de-sac. I had to walk across the street at 7:45 in the morning in front of all the people going to school, all of my neighbors, handcuffed in the back of a friggin' cop car. I was so mad at him. I was so mad. I'm like, I am never going to forgive you for this.
Right.
I remember looking at him and saying that I am never, ever going to forgive you for this.
Right.
And so they hauled me off to the county mental health, which is a scary place.
Downtown, yeah.
And I had traces of crystal meth and Vicodin in my system, and my husband found out and was like, oh, he was done.
Yeah,
he was done. So
and
I
rightly
didn't.
so. You had 2 kids.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back, I get it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have done the same thing, maybe even whatever.
You don't know.
It just happened. They moved me to Mesa Vista Hospital, which is awesome, by the way. And I stayed there for 10 days because they were waiting for a bed for me to open at Hazelden, which is a very renowned rehab center. There's one in, I believe it's Michigan or Massachusetts, one of those states, and then one in Oregon and one in Florida. And so I went to the one in Oregon, and I was there for 30 days. And in that 30 days, I had a very difficult time saying that I was an alcoholic. I didn't think I was. I still at this time did not think I was an alcoholic or an addict. I was like, this is no. And so you start a meeting, you say, hi, I'm Laura, I'm an alcoholic. And I wouldn't say it for like the first couple weeks I was there. Wow. And then the more I learned about myself, we did this exercise where we had to write out 10 occasions where you had to write down what you were planning to do, what you actually did, the consequences to others, and the consequences to yourself. And like, I remember one time telling my husband I was going to a Christmas party for my company, and that was my intention. And instead, I went to a friend's house, we got super drunk, we did some drugs. I ended up him calling me. It was like 3 a.m. I wasn't home. Again, 2 small kids at home.
Oh, yeah.
So I really, it took that for me to go, oh my God, I am totally and completely 100% an alcoholic and an addict. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because there are too many of these occasions. I could have written out 30 of them.
But the light bulb moment happened there.
Right, at Hazelden. And it was really strict. You couldn't talk to the men at all. Like, You had to, like, if a man passed you in the hallway, you had to keep your head down. We couldn't have any caffeine. We couldn't have sweets after, like, noon. And so, of course, I am a rule breaker. I didn't think about this until after, but I'll get to this in a second. But I had to go to the doctor for something. So they took me in the white van to the doctor, and I saw the gift store at the hospital, and I went and I stuffed a bunch of candy in my bra to bring back to my friends in rehab. And so I was like, guys, come in my room. We weren't supposed to go in each other's room either.
Right.
And I spilled it all out. I'm like, oh my God, look, candy.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
like
it's
something
candy.
so simple.
I know.
Yeah.
It was like the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
Well, I did that a couple of times where I snuck food into my room. You're not supposed to have that either. And I didn't realize that these were all little tests.
Yeah.
Now, would they do a sweep of your room that you didn't
Like,
know
or a bed
of?
check
Or
Yes. And I thought I hid it was like a freaking box of cereal.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still
like you
something to
just said,
snack
it was
on.
a test.
Mm-hmm.
These were all tests. So after my 30 days at Hazelden, my husband at the time said, you are not to come back here. If they say you need more rehab, you are not to come back into San Diego County. And because at that time, like I said, he was done with me.
And in their mind, 30 days was sufficient. You spent 30
Right.
days there.
Well, no. I talked to my counselor and I said, okay, I'm coming up on 30 days. I'd like to go back home. I miss my kids. I hadn't seen them
Yeah.
for a month.
And they were how old at the time?
Charlie was 4 Charlie was 5 and Evan was 2.
Okay.
She was almost 3. So my counselor said, Laura, we want you to stay for 2 more months because of your impulsivity. It's going to get you into trouble. And I was like, now looking back,
What a blessing.
well,
Right.
think about it. I was totally impulsive. I still am.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. I was sobbing because I knew, I was like, I cannot stay here for another 2 months. I can't. I cannot be in Oregon away from my kids another 2 months. So I found a sober living facility in Newport Beach called Sober Living by the Sea. And sober living is different than rehab in that you kind of live on your own. You have a house mom that pee tests you every 3 days to make sure you're still sober and, drug free. But we were assigned a bicycle, and we'd ride a bicycle to the center every morning to get our morning meds, which I don't know, that just sounds funny to me for some reason. The meds that they put me on were like depression medication because that they diagnosed
That's
me
a real thing.
well,
Yeah.
they call it a dual diagnosis, alcoholic and depressed.
Yeah.
And it's kind of really odd because that's what alcohol is, a depressant.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
And you're coming off of trauma.
yeah.
Like your father's death or the thing that happened in your marriage. Those are all traumatic things
Yeah.
that we really don't know what to do with them.
Right. So you just drown them and
Yeah.
stuff them and snort them and
'Cause
take
what
them,
else? Yeah.
numb it out.
Now, when you were at Hazelden and they said we want you to stay 2 more months, and you said absolutely not, I'm going. Were they like, this is a bad decision?
Yes. They said, well, yes. They said, this isn't, Laura, you have a 50% chance, 75% chance, greater chance of staying sober if you do sober living. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do it here. I can't.
Yeah.
So, they knew that I was going to Newport. So they were like, okay, good. Went to Newport.
Did you feel comfortable in yourself when you left the 30? Did you think you had a lock on it?
Oh, heck yeah. I just did 30 days. When I got my 30-day chip, I just was like, this is a miracle. This is amazing that I haven't had a drink in 30 days. I drank every night. Even, I didn't tell you, during Evan's pregnancy.
Yeah.
That's one where I drank.
Yeah.
I did. I'd sneak little bottles of wine, little tiny bottles of wine. I'd make dinner. I'd drink them. So that's how bad it got toward the end. Like,
Right.
thank God nothing bad happened to Evan, but I still am you're not supposed to be full of shame or anything. That's what it teaches you, but I still am a little bit ashamed about that.
Oh, look at
And
her.
I smoked too. But I gave up smoking at Hazelden as well. So
Thank God.
I know you would not
So this-
be hanging with me if I was a smoker.
With as many times as I kiss you on the mouth, it would be like licking an ashtray. So I'm so glad you stopped smoking.
Oh my God.
Now, did you